Merry Christmas, boys and girls. This is Santa Claus coming to you from the North Pole, and I thought I might take a few moments to read to you some of my favorite stories. Right now, I would like to read to you about Alistair. He's called the Littlest Elf. Ho, 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 ho. So, let's go ahead and begin the story. Alistair the elf was excited. Today he was leaving for the North Pole. The whole village of Elfin Corners had come to say goodbye. Even the mayor was there. This year Santa has sent for our merriest elf to join his workshop, the mayor said. We will miss Alistair, his songs and stories, yet Santa needs the best, and our Alistair is a very special elf. But when Alistair arrived at the North Pole, he didn't feel special at all. He was the littlest elf there. He was so tiny that the head elf, McCafferty, couldn't find him a job. McCafferty gave Alistair a wagon to build, but Alistair was too small to hammer. He gave him a dollhouse to paint, but Alistair couldn't reach the roof. He gave him some bears to stuff. That didn't work either. He buried beneath them, said the elf in charge of the bears. He's trying to build the house, and there's the bears covering him all up. Poor Alistair, he was so small he couldn't build the toys. McCafferty shook his head. Just 2 weeks until Christmas, and we still have so much to do. We have to find you a job. Perhaps you can sweep. But even the broom was too big for Alistair, and the other elves began to laugh. Why, he's just a runt, said one elf. He poked a friend and giggled. He's smaller than I am, said another, who stuck out his tongue. And absolutely useless, said a third. Santa should send him away. The elves were being very mean to Alistair. Alistair blinked his eyes quickly so he wouldn't cry. I don't belong here, he thought. I'm so little even Santa won't like me. Then he pushed through the crowd and ran from the room. But Santa won't send me away, said Alistair, because he will never see me. Alistair kept running until he found a perfect place to hide, down behind the wood pile in back of the reindeer pen. It was there that Alistair found a friend. My name is Nicholas, said an old elf, peering over the woodpile. What's yours? Alistair answered in a whisper. Nicholas shook his hand. I'm glad to know you, he said. Would you like to help me with the reindeer? When Alistair nodded, Nicholas lifted him up to his shoulders, and the two of them chattered and sang while they fed and watered the reindeer. Alistair was so happy to find a friend that he returned to the reindeer pen the next day and the next. Nicholas never minded if Alistair asked questions, and he never told Alistair he was too small to help. While Nicholas cleaned out the stalls, Alistair fed the reindeer apples. While Nicholas brushed a reindeer's coat, Alistair polished the harness bells, and all the while he told Nicholas stories, and together they sang to the reindeer. You see him feeding the reindeer? Ho, 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 ho. But one morning Nicholas was gone. Someone else was hauling the water. Someone else was cleaning the pen. Where's Nicholas? Alistair asked. Nicholas, indeed, said a grumpy elf who was busily swinging a pitchfork. He's up at the big house. Now go away. I have work to do. The big house, thought Alistair, but that's where Santa lives. Nicholas must be sick. He must be very sick if he's staying with Santa. And he thought of his friend in that big, scary house, sent Alistair scurrying home to the safety of his bed. But he didn't sleep. He was worried about Nicholas, and he missed him too much. He knew he'd have to see him. So the next morning, Alistair packed a basket of fruit and started out for a visit. But the nearer he got to Santa's house, the slower his steps became. Finally, he stopped completely behind a Christmas tree in Santa's front yard. His heart was beating loudly. Suddenly the door opened, and Alistair, more frightened than ever, dived beneath the Christmas tree. He heard footsteps, and he buried his head under his arms. He was hiding, wasn't he? The footsteps came closer. Alistair was afraid to breathe. He closed his eyes tightly and prayed that no one would find him. But someone jiggled his foot. "Hey there," said a voice. "You're not hurt, are you?" Alistair let out a long, slow breath. He peeked out from under his arms. It was Nicholas! Alistair scurried out from under the tree and gave his friend a hug. "Well, it's Alistair. I've missed you. And how are my reindeer? The week before Christmas is so busy I don't have time to take care of them. Come inside and talk to me." And before Alistair could say a word, his friend had hoisted him to his shoulders and begun walking toward the house. "No, no," Alistair cried. "I can't go in there. Put me down." And he wiggled and squirmed so much that the old elf did put him down. "Can't go in where?" Nicholas asked. Alistair pointed toward the house. "And why not, may I ask?" "Because Santa won't like me, and he'll send me home." "Why would he do that?" asked Nicholas. "Because I'm little, and I can't do anything right. And—" The old elf interrupted. "Why, that's nonsense," he said. "You're a big help to me. In fact, I have a special job just for you." "A special job?" asked Alistair. "For me?" "Exactly right," said Nicholas. "You're coming with me this year when I make deliveries." "Deliveries?" said Alistair. The toys to the children on Christmas Eve," said Nicholas. "You see, it's a long trip, and I get lonely, but you could come with me, Alistair. You're so small you'll fit in the sleigh, and you could tell me stories, and we could sing songs, and just like we do in the reindeer pen." Alistair's mouth dropped open. His eyes got big and round. Then, "You're Santa Claus!" His friend bowed. "Also known as St. Nicholas." Alistair began to back away. Then he stopped and grinned. "But I'm not afraid of you." "I'm glad," said the old elf. "Will you come with me on Christmas Eve?" "Oh, yes," said Alistair. That's exactly what he did. And it was the best Christmas Eve Alistair or Santa ever had. Ho, 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 ho. As they're flying off in the sleigh, little Alistair and Santa Claus. Ho, 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 ho. That every one of you has something special to offer to everyone else. So be yourself and be the very best you that you can be, and help others. And in doing so, help Santa Claus, just like the littlest elf. Goodbye, boys and girls. Have a Merry Christmas.